Elise, thank you so much. As you all know, the Cuban people have been under a repressive, totalitarian, terrorist, murderous regime for 62 years. And recently, last week, they took to the streets. And they took to the streets asking for one thing alone: freedom. Freedom. They're not out there asking for remittances. They're not asking for aspirin. They're asking and demanding freedom. And for that, for those peaceful demonstrations, they have been confronting the most dramatic repression that I think we have seen in decades. You've all seen, I hope, the videos and the pictures. The regime is sending uniformed and plainclothes thugs to beat up protesters. They're shooting people in their own homes. They're breaking into people's homes and shooting them. Something I never heard about. They're actually grabbing boys out of their homes by force and forcing those boys to participate in the repression of those who are peacefully demonstrating for freedom. And what is the response of President Biden? Some lukewarm words. But inconceivably, he has now announced a remittance working group to weaken sanctions precisely as the regime has asked for. That is what we are hearing from, again, this administration. The Cuban people, as I said before, they're not asking for remittances. By the way, let's be very clear, very few Cuban families have access to remittances. Particularly Afro-Cubans have very little access because they don't have a lot of family that can send them remittances. What the Cuban people are asking for is freedom. So what are we asking for this president to do? To unblock and expand internet access to the Cuban people, because that's been blocked off by the Cuban regime, and there's a lot that the United States can do there. This president said that he was going to be the new president of diplomacy in the world. Where is he? He should be demanding that the UN, that the OAS, that the EU, and all the other multilateral organizations and democratic allies denounce the illegitimacy of the Cuban regime, condemn the human rights abuses, and end trade with the Cuban military. This administration is also, by the way, pushing to lower funding for U.S. broadcasts into the island. Think about that. As he wants to increase funding on just about everything except for national security and defense, he also wants to decrease funding for broadcasts from the United States into the island, which the Cuban people are, by the way, now more than ever using to communicate with each other. And for those who say that the fault of the repression and the murdering of innocent Cubans, the fault of that is the United States trade embargo. Let me be very clear. The sanctions on the Cuban military, which is what they are, go away just with three things taking place on the island. Number one is free the political prisoners in Cuba. Is that something that's too much to ask for? Is that something that our colleagues, Democratic colleagues, don't support? Number two is allow for some basic freedoms. Freedom of the press, independent labor unions, political parties. Is that something that we don't support in the United States? Is that something that our colleagues, Democratic colleagues, don't support? And number three, start the process for free and fair elections. Then the sanctions go away in a day. So again, what we're asking for is real solidarity from the administration, President Biden's administration, not just empty lip service, and then looking at ways to eliminate or weaken sanctions. Mr. President, please, this is a historic moment. We need the President of the United States to lead and not look at ways of diminishing sanctions or helping the regime, which seems the only thing this president knows how to do.